Thank you for your interest in becoming a volunteer tutor for an adult learner in Wayne County. I am Lee Holtz. I am Program Manager for Literacy Connections of Wayne County. Also in staff, we have Susie Acree, our Executive Director, and Susie Martinez, Center and Graphics Coordinator. Our center is located on Ash Street. Our hours of operation are Monday and Wednesday, 8:30 to 6, and Tuesday and Thursday, 8:30 to 7:30, to allow for evening hours for tutoring as needed. This is a brief orientation of who we are and what we do. This is not a complete how-to on how to be a tutor. Our orientation guide can be found on our website, and it can be printed off, and it might be easier to follow along with me as I go through this. You will also find a list of our board of directors. We are a 501c3, and we are governed by a board of directors. So, briefly, who we are. In 2008, United Way of Wayne County did a needs assessment and found that adult literacy was a big concern for our community. So they started work in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce to explore the issue of a literacy council. Out of that, in 2010, Literacy Connections was born and began operations. We started in a broom closet, literally, at the public library, and have grown to where we are today in this building on Ash Street. You can find more information about our history on our website. As I mentioned, we are a 501c3. We are under the auspices of the county, but we are an outside county department, but that does mean that Wayne County is one of our largest funders. United Way of Wayne County continues to be a major funder, as well as the City of Goldsboro and other entities. The mission of Literacy Connections is to provide and promote free literacy services in Wayne County. Our vision is for all adults in Wayne County to have the literacy skills needed to succeed at home, at work, and in the community. Our values begin with the right of every adult to pursue his or her ambitions to meet individualized goals. The agency assists adults through a wide variety of learning methods and empowers the adult learner to be successful in his or her work and family life. You will see the basic principles and a definition of student-centered approach on this page. Basically, it is respect with the learners that we work with. This is an adult relationship. It is an equal relationship. It is student-centered, and that simply means we work with the student to reach their goals and to work with materials that help them reach their goals. So, what is literacy? In 2003, the National Center for Educational Statistics defined literacy as the ability to use printed and written information to function in society, to achieve one's goals, and to develop one's knowledge and potentials. Our programming primarily targets reading, writing, and speaking the English language up to a basic skills level. That's approximately an 8th grade level. We do not ever want to duplicate services for other agencies in Wayne County. And we have Wayne Community College here, which is a wonderful resource, and they do offer basic skills for adults, which is, again, basically 9th grade up or high school level. So we fill in the gap. We work with the students who are not ready for the programs at the college. So what are the issues in Wayne County? What do we think about when we think about literacy needs in our community? In Wayne County, it's the low-level reading population. According to PIAC, which is the Program for International Assessment of Adult Competencies, 27% of Wayne County adults perform at level 1 or below, which means they have very low literacy skills, and many are functionally illiterate. That's an alarming number. It is higher than both the state and the national average. That also means, if we think about that, if we're standing in line at the grocery store or Walmart, probably 1 out of every 4 people struggles with literacy. It's very hard to measure literacy levels. A person probably is not going to walk up to you and say, oh, by the way, I can't read or I don't read well. And it's not measured by someone's educational level. The PIAC map that you see in your handbook is available on our website, and it is interactive if you would like to learn more. It will also show the different levels and where we are in Wayne County, as well as numeracy levels. You can also check any county in the United States and get that same information. Literacy should be an important issue for everyone in Wayne County. It's expensive. It costs our social programs. It takes away from our tax base. It costs our health care system. Low literacy adults are less likely to complete high school or earn a GED. They're less likely to vote or participate in other community activities. They're unable to establish education values as parents or grandparents, and that just causes the cycle of illiteracy to continue. They're more likely to be unemployed, or if they are employed, they're low-skilled, low-wage jobs. They're more likely to rely on social assistance or enter the criminal justice system and to experience poor physical and mental health. It's very hard to maintain a healthy lifestyle if you don't understand what questions to ask your doctor, if you don't understand the instructions, if you don't know how to take your medication, and you don't know how to advocate for yourself. So low literacy adults are more likely to be dependent on other individuals and community resources. That costs all of us. The Wayne County adult literacy students that we serve fall into 4 basic focus groups. Adult basic education, or what we refer to as ABE students. They possess reading and writing literacy skills below a high school level. The primary skills are reading, writing, and speaking English, but followed by basic math and technology skills. Our students may or may not have learning differences or difficulties. We don't always have that information. We also have English language acquisition students. These are students who possess low reading, writing, and English speaking skills because English is not their native language. It's not their primary language. These students may or may not be literate in their own language. We have developed a partnership with Wayne Community College to serve some of our ELA students when needed. We do try to make a one-on-one match when necessary, and we're always open to doing that, particularly if an ELA student cannot meet at the time of the Wayne Community class. But we have partnered, and pre-COVID, Wayne Community did have a class here in our site, and we hope that that will continue when conditions improve. Digital technology students. They can be either ABE or ELA students who lack the digital literacy skills to navigate a 21st century world. As we all know, everything is digital these days, from putting gas in your car to filling out a job application to banking. The pandemic really brought the need for digital literacy in our community to the forefront, and we work to integrate that into our programming. And financial literacy. We have a financial literacy program, Bank on Wayne, and this can be for any student who wishes to learn how to plan and save for the future, properly manage a checking account, and understand how to build and manage credit. Adult literacy students come from all demographics. They look like our community. As I mentioned before, they'll probably deny that they cannot read. They're usually very personable because they're going to ask people for help, and they, think if they're nicer, then they might be able to get that information. They will often mimic things of someone more literate, such as carrying a newspaper or wearing a wristwatch. They might take a job application home to fill it out, or pretend to read to children, make up the stories from the pictures, or learn to match road signs and landmarks for directions and that type of thing. So they're very able to maneuver in the world. They have coping skills. They also have coping skills when they're asked to read or write something, and you'll see some of those listed as well. A common one is, I forgot my glasses and I can't see this. Our students have very different goals for being here. They are as diverse as our student population. They all have different motivations for being here. You will see those listed in your guide. And our instruction is based on what their goals are. Adult learners generally make the decision to come to us when they have hit a brick wall or a barrier that they need to overcome, and so their goal is going to be based around that. Most adult learners are very creative and adaptable, as I've already mentioned, but they're anxious about coming here. They might feel shameful about their experience and not want to share that with anyone, or not want anyone to know that they have come here. So we always keep that in mind, that they're probably a little nervous about being here and admitting that they need help. Effective tutors, as I've mentioned again before, are learner-centered. Everything in the instruction needs to be something that moves the student forward to their goal. Otherwise, they're not going to see the relevance, and they could possibly lose interest. This is an adult relationship, so we're sensitive and respectful to our students' needs. And as a tutor, again, being adaptable and enthusiastic and committed to what you're doing. You're valued. Our tutors are our most important resource. It is the one element that is required for success when teaching an adult learner to read. We do have expectations, and you will see that in the manual as well. Basically, the tutor and the adult student will agree to participate in 2 hours of learning in the center each week for 6 months. That is an important thing. 2 hours a week is what we know moves the needle forward for that face-to-face time. But we require or ask for the 6 months because it takes time to build a relationship. Part of what makes the one-on-one tutoring work is that relationship a student builds with their tutor and the trust that comes with that. Also, progress is not immediate. We like immediate gratification. We want to see progress. We've made a decision to come, we've set a goal, and we want to meet that goal and move on. It does not always happen like that. So we want to establish enough time to see some progress taking place. You can also see the other things that we ask, and some of them are pretty basic. We do also ask that if you know that you're not going to be able to meet with your student at a designated time, that you let the student know that and be respectful of their time. Likewise, we ask the student to do the same thing. That will require changing telephone numbers so that you can contact one another. The adult student agrees to participate in 2 initial evaluation tests and 1 progress evaluation test after 60 hours of instruction. I'll explain that process in just a little bit, but also we do track that 60 hours of instruction. You do not have to track that for us. We encourage the student to work to achieve significant learning for a minimum of 6 months. I mentioned that earlier. It takes a while to start seeing the progress, so we commit to keeping that time limit. The tutor will submit student goals upon request. I want to point that out under the tutor obligations. As I mentioned, we're a nonprofit. That means we have to do reporting on what is going on in the center. You will get an email from me twice a year requesting some information, and that will be based on the goals that your student has set. You can read more about the expectations in your handout. Identifying learning goals. This is going to be an important step for your student moving forward. SMART goals. You will work with your student once you are matched to establish SMART goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Often a student will come in and their goal is to obtain a GED, but they're currently reading on a second or third grade reading level. That's a big gap. So you'll work with your student to establish milestones along the way. This will help them see progress and success and allow them to move forward toward their goal as opposed to becoming discouraged. There is additional information about working with your student to establish SMART goals. We do have lesson planning training sessions on our website that are required, and there's more information in that, as well as in the book Tutor 8 that you will be given once you're matched with your student. We do use material from Pro Literacy, which is the National Literacy Organization for Adults, and materials from New Readers Press. We also have access to their resources and their website. Adult learner success. The matching process is based on the information that you provide for us when you fill out your registration form, and it is compared to what the learner has filled out in their registration form. We want to know as much as we can about your comfort level. Do you prefer working with a student who needs math skills? Are you more comfortable working with someone who's a beginning reader? Or do you prefer a higher level student? The more information we have, the better match we're able to make. But realistically, often it boils down to the time you're available and that the student is available as well. Once we have identified a match that we think looks promising, we will contact you and we'll ask you to come in and review the student's file. The student is aware that we are sharing that information with you, so you can learn a little bit about the student from what is on paper, and you'll also learn from that what level that student is on. If it looks like a good fit or you're interested in meeting the student, we will set up that initial meeting. If not, we will continue looking for a match. When the potential match has been identified, as I said, we'll set up that initial meeting. And during that initial meeting, it's a meet and greet. It's a chance to get to know each other. Again, one of the books you'll receive, Tutor 8, has some really good suggestions about things to do during that initial meeting. Teaching the adult learner. As I mentioned earlier, this is not a how-to. These are just some very basic things to keep in mind when you're working with an adult. An adult does not learn the same way that a child does. A child is basically a blank slate. An adult has a lifetime of knowledge that they bring to the table. They're goal-oriented. Something brought them here, some barrier they met or something they need to accomplish, and they are focused on reaching that goal. They're self-directed. They don't come here because their parents wake them up in the morning and make them come here like a traditional school. They want to be here and they're motivated. They also have many of the same barriers that all busy adults have. Lack of time, lack of confidence is a big thing that we often see with an adult learner. Quite possibly they have experienced failure, or they have experienced someone telling them that they can't achieve something, and we're always cognizant of that. Lack of progress with traditional theoretical approaches. Traditional school settings might not have worked in the past, and so they've not seen the progress that they like. And also feeling a little bit ashamed that maybe this is somehow a personal failure on their part. For an adult to make significant reading progress, It does take the 2 hours of face-to-face time that I mentioned earlier. We do normally recommend that you do that in 2 separate sessions as opposed to trying to do a 2-hour-long session. That's a really long time to prepare, and it's also a really long time for your student to stay focused. But in addition to that, the student needs to be committed to doing additional time at home, even if it's just 15 minutes a day of additional exercises. You will see in your handout some examples of learning activities that are good homework, for lack of a better word, for your student. There also is more information in the books that you will be given. And then you'll also be able to create your own things as you become more familiar with your students' needs. 1 hour of tutoring should equal 4 short 10 to 20 minute learning activities. When you're planning for your lessons, keep that in mind. However, that will be covered in much more detail in the lesson planning videos. But students will focus better if things are short and concise. When you're presenting an activity, it's important to remember to explain the activity. Why is it important? Why are you doing that? I think for all of us, if we know why we are doing something, it makes it much easier. Model the activity. Don't just explain it. Let the student see you doing that. Offer guided practice. Apply. Give the student an assignment or an opportunity to work with you and apply that. And then review. Always review. And I want to say here, I've had this happen to me as well. You have a session, things go really well, you're feeling good about the progress made that day, you send your student home with activities to work on at home, you meet the next time and do a review of the last session, and it's like it never happened. Unfortunately, that's not unusual, and it's okay. All it means is that you need to go back and revisit before moving forward. Don't let that discourage you. Remember, as you're working with your adult learner, to identify their best learning style. Are they a visual learner? Do they need to see things? Are they a learner that needs to hear things? Or do they need to touch things? Often your student can tell you that. They will tell you, I need to keep moving, or I need to hear you say something in order to get it. However, most of us and most of our students learn with a combination of all of these methods. Plan each lesson with the focus on the SMART goals. We've talked about what a SMART goal is. That's what they're working toward, and that's what we need to stay focused on. Also, be sure to incorporate real things from everyday life that your student can relate to in order to make the lessons more relevant. And then review your materials for activities that will meet those learning focuses. Again, I just want to say we will cover this in more detail in the lesson planning videos. Some other information I'd like to share with you that you'll find in the appendix section of the handout are the 4 components of reading: alphabetics and word analysis, vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. All of those things work together to create a proficient reader. A reader must know how to recognize the sounds, how to decode them, how to blend them back together to create a word. They need to be able to do that quickly so that they recognize them and can move through pretty quickly. They need to understand the meaning of the words they're reading. They need to be able to do that without hesitation. And when those things come together, then comprehension begins to take place. There's also a page that has some more information about the learning styles I mentioned earlier. It gives more detail about what those particular styles mean. It also gives you some helpful tips and activities for things to do with that learner. We have lots of things in the, not only print materials in the center, but manipulatives, flashcards, letter tiles, lots of things that we can provide for you. The next thing that you will see is the CASAS descriptors, and let me explain just very briefly what that is. I mentioned earlier that your student has been evaluated. They have agreed to participate in 2 evaluations initially when they're registered. It is a standardized test. CASAS, or the Comprehensive Adult Student Assessment System, is what we use. This is nationally recognized, so our funders recognize it, as well as when we're having conversations with other institutions such as Wayne Community College. Our students, if you'll look at the descriptions, are going to basically fall into that 220, 215, and lower category. You can see exactly what a student at that level should be able to do and things that they might not be able to do. When you are matched with your student, you will know where they fall in the CASAS assessment. We can give you that information of the level that that student is on. We also have provided a list of online ABE resources. We do try to keep this list updated. These are things that we have found to be helpful and current. We do check on that regularly. However, if you find a resource that you think is particularly helpful, please share that with us. Or if you go to one of these resources and find that the page is down, let us know that as well. Tutor materials. We do provide the materials for all of our tutors. You are not expected to provide those yourself. As I mentioned earlier, you will receive, after you've completed the orientation and the lesson planning section, 2 particular books. Teaching Adults. This is a great resource guide, has lots of information about the things that I have talked about, but it gives you great detail. It gives you resources of other places to go. This is put out by New Readers Press, which is a great go-to for us for adult material. You will also receive a copy of the book Tutor 8. And again, very good resources, very good information, and great detail about some of the things that you may encounter, great ideas for lessons and that type of thing. We also have available, I don't have enough copies to give them out, but they are available to check out if you want additional information. Again, New Readers Press, Lit Start, Strategies for Lesson Planning. And then if you really want to take a deep dive into working with an adult learner, this is Research and Reading Instruction for Adults. This is a little more like a textbook, but again, it still has some very good, helpful information, and we're glad to share these books with you as well. Pro Literacy and New Readers Press have a wonderful website with lots of additional information and trainings that are available to you. If you're interested in reviewing some of those, let us know, and we'll make sure that you're able to access those as well. We have additional tutor resources in the center that we are glad to share with you and show you where you can find those, including journals that are put out by Pro Literacy and their Pro Literacy magazine, as well as additional materials that we find. And lastly, before we close, you'll see a copy of the Learner and Tutor Agreement. This is an important document. Once you have met with the student and decide that this looks like it's a good fit, you're ready to make that 6-month commitment, we will ask you to fill this out with your student. It kind of reviews what the agreement is, the commitment that you're making, and at this point you'll work with your student to tighten up their goals and to come up with 3 SMART goals. I wouldn't really recommend beginning to go much more than that. You want to be able to stay focused and clear on where the student is going. Once you have completed this and both of you have signed it out, you'll return it to the center and we'll make sure we have that in file. And then just for additional information, you will see on the last 2 pages the sight words from both the Fry's list and Dolch list. That's very good information to have as you're working with your student and assessing whether they have these sight words at their grasp or not. Thank you for your time, and again, thank you for your interest in becoming a tutor. This is a lot of information, and I know it can be quite overwhelming, but we do have the lesson planning sessions that we encourage you to watch. We don't encourage, I'm sorry, you are required to see when you're matched with the student, as well as the short video and distance tutoring that we have available as well. So again, thank you for your time and thank you for your interest. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have additional questions. We can be reached at 919-735-1990. Our emails to all three of us on staff are also in the Tutor Orientation Guide. And remember, together we are growing a literacy-rich community.